And that means we are live here during our daily halftime report, our once a day YouTube show where we break down the markets and work through our daily routine. We've got Coach Cody out in Hawaii. You're looking very, what is it, aloha right there, Cody?
Yeah, I guess I am looking aloha today.
Yeah, you got.
I think the new camera helps.
I think the new camera makes you look great, kid. And me and Cody are here going to break down the markets today. Goldman Sachs earnings, Citigroup's earnings. Boeing is moving a little bit. Waste Management had an acquisition, lots more. But I got to get to this, Cody. Did you watch Game of Thrones last night?
I did not. I'm actually still on season 4, so I'm just hearing a bunch of spoilers ahead of time. But like you said, pre-production, I can't really be upset about that. It's been out for 8 years.
There's an old episode of Seinfeld back when you used to record stuff on your VHS tapes, and he was trying to record the Met game. And every time you pick up the phone, don't tell me the score to the Mets game. He's trying to stop. And I can't remember the end of the episode. Either Costanza or Kramer ruined it for him, I believe, if I remember right. You can't do that. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Like if you recorded the Masters yesterday, the idea that you would not know that Tiger won before you watched it.
Yeah, that's true. That's yeah. And I was talking with some people about the Masters, and I don't think anyone who came in second, third, or anything like that, they don't even care, because you know what? Everyone was cheering for Tiger right at the end, including his opponents. Everyone wanted Tiger to win.
Yeah, I agree with that. Even if you hated Tiger for a while there, Tyler Craig, maybe I just had a little Freudian slip there. I don't know. Tyler, maybe you're the greatest golfer of all time. Tyler is a pretty good golfer. I will tell you that. I've played with him before. But even if you hated Tiger 10 years ago for what he did and whatnot in his personal life, just a triumphant comeback story. And watching him with his son after, it was incredible. It was incredible TV, and it was on early. I was up working on stuff, and it was on early, but that's what it is. I enjoyed it. Sunday was great. I even cooked ribs yesterday, Cody.
I saw those. They looked good.
I make a mean rack of ribs. I'll have to have you over some point. Maybe I'll actually come out to Hawaii. I need to get out of the rain here in Utah.
Come join us.
I definitely will. All right, rock and roll, kid. Let's jump into the market one step at a time. Now, on Monday, what we always want to do is to do a full market prep, kind of look at the week, talk about earnings, talk about the economic calendar, talk about what to expect for, the next few days. We're going to break down all of the different indexes, as well as commodities and currency markets and whatnot. And do you have screen share, kiddo?
I do. Let me go ahead and pull my screen up.
Let's see here. And welcome out, Halftime Crew. If you are new to the Halftime Report, as always, first of the show, I'm reminded to ask you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and like the video and get the word out. We do this so that we can engage our audience, and we love doing it. It's my favorite part of the day. All right, S&P 500 here, Cody. Give me a read on the technicals. Obviously, little red candlestick. We're holding 2,900, which is the key level technically. It feels like it could do anything. It feels like it could drift upward. We could easily pull back deeper into those moving averages. But for now, in my opinion, the market is still bullish. We've got a bullish ranking on the market. What's your read on the chart there, Cody?
So I kind of talked about this in the newsletter. I titled the newsletter this past weekend, The Market That Thinks It Can. And the reason why is it's eyeing that old high, just, 40 points, 44 points right now, just above. Yes, we have that red candle for the day. This looks like it had a breakout, and it's kind of testing that breakout. So it's not quite a breakout pullback, but it's not sure if it wants to do it. Small, taking a breath, taking a breather. From a technical standpoint, it's still broken. It's still above that 2,900 mark. Still bullish to the upside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fading higher. There's no question about it. There's many companies on the S&P that are grabbing my attention today. I think we got to start with Goldman Sachs, though. It's also a Dow component, but obviously an S&P 500 component. Earnings season is going to bring out volatility, and on Friday, a lot of the banks started to run to the upside and they were moving. Goldman came out this morning and they actually beat earnings, but they didn't increase revenue year over year. It was at best estimation, a mixed bag. Financials are one of those areas where even just a few weeks ago, Cody, during our scouting report meetings, we were talking about short financial opportunities, and the only real concern was the earnings. They popped up there last week. Now this one's coming back. Any read here on Goldman Sachs?
So what I see from Goldman Sachs, and it's actually the same read I have on Citi, they both took a jump on Friday from JP Morgan Chase earnings. So then when their earnings, even though they had decent earnings today, but because they already had their move from Friday, we got a little bit of fading down. And like I said, I had the same read on Citi. They made their move on Friday, and from that, today is kind of a mute date for them.
Yeah, I would say that as well. And Citigroup actually is a better chart because it gapped out of resistance. And then Goldman Sachs is probably a weaker chart, obviously, because it gapped into the middle of a range. But there's an opportunity here as well. Now, the problem is this one's not a great example of it. But when you have a post earnings move that moves you back into neutrality, you can come out the morning of earnings and actually play things like iron condors. The volatility crush does not come out of that company instantly, right?
Yeah,
And
it
so
just starts.
if the volatility was a little bit higher on GS, I'd be more interested in it. It looks like this one's not that great for that type of opportunity, but you can easily play volatility strategies. Bull put, bear call, iron condor, post earnings gap is a way to catch those kind of moves. Citigroup is stronger here. There's no question about it. Obviously, with Goldman Sachs, it was a little bit relatively weak, but mixed action out of the financials. We're going to have earnings as we keep coming. By the way, there was other companies that had earnings this morning as well. MTB and Schwab. Give me MTB if you would. And these are the headlines every day this week and next week and for the next few weeks, guys. Companies that release earnings and how they release them and how they look and all that kind of stuff. That's a bear retracement pivot against old support rotating there, Cody. That actually has a new trigger, probably at the lows of those candlesticks right there. And traders always tell me, well, Tim, I can't find any trades because earnings are coming out. Well, guess what? There's probably about 15 trades on both the stock report and the option report this week. So there's always trades to find. Don't give me an excuse on that. But even after those post earnings reactions, it creates opportunities to play companies like this. What's your read on MTB?
MTB is just like you said. Trigger's going to be right there below those candle lows. You also see the 20 there as well as the 100-day moving average, which isn't most people's favorites, but I like it. So yeah, we get a break below this. This is easily triggerable to the downside. First target would be that pivot low. And I mean, just looking at that, that's a nice amount of move that you can get on that stock.
Yeah, for sure. And then give me a look at Schwab, if you would, SCHW. And let's take a peek here. Financials, they're moving. Now, this one to me is a neutral one right now in terms of a gap out red candle brought it all the way back out down to the gap point. I don't even know what the percentage move is there for the day. When you've got a long-term trend to the downside and now you have a gap that has failed to hold itself, that is a very key candlestick, which is why, especially on earnings, guys, they talk about how confirmation is not there until the end of the day, the day after earnings. You did not hold the upward movement. It did not break and run. In fact, now it's failing. Give me an intraday chart on that, Cody, and just look at that precipitous sell-off from the beginning of the morning here.
Yeah, the entire upward movement where it opened to the upside was all pre-market moving. And so as soon as you actually had majority of traders able to get in and touch this thing, they did not seem to like what the people pre-market did.
No, they did not, my young man. There's no doubt about it. I'm looking at the performance on the market here. Some of the top performers today, National Oil Well Varco, NOV actually is up 4%. Give me a quick look at NOV. Let's rapid fire through a few of these. Coming off of a low point, non-earnings, but the oil and gas area is moving. The heat map was strong in that area this morning. When I was looking at that heat map, it did have some mixed action. Anthem is up, ANTM. Healthcare plans are recovering here a little bit. They had such a nasty sell-off. This is kind of one of those dead cat bounces from a bearish movement back up to the upside. When you see strong performance, off of a bottom like that, but earnings are coming up, there's really nothing to see there. And then, my favorite stock a week ago for a bull pullback pivot got a downgrade, kicked me in the teeth on that. Well, you stop out, you take 1R risk, and that's the way it works. But Waste Management is now back up.
Yeah, I was about to say Waste Management. I already knew what you were talking about.
Yeah. What was the news on this one, Cody?
News on this one.
Company.
What's that?
They acquired some company.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about acquisitions that typically you'll have one gap up, one gap down. So obviously Waste Management got the better end of this deal, gapping to the upside. So yeah, the downgrade pulled it down, stopped a lot of our traders out of the trade, and then of course then you get a gap up. But those are those events you can't necessarily plan for, and you just got to know that the law of large numbers. You get out of the trade even though you missed out on that. There's nothing you can do about it. You wait for the next trade, wait for the next setup.
hmm a lot of things are rotating back up here today. One of the companies that I've been tracking quite a bit is Cigna, and Cigna actually was one of the trades I took on Thursday last week in the morning when I was sitting there with my
What's their
daughter.
symbol?
CI. Healthcare plan companies are recovering here today. Now, when you look at the weakness here and it's kind of finding and holding support, this is why triggers are so important. From a swing trading perspective, this thing has to clear below the low before you play that trade. There's no question about it. You have to get trigger confirmation. Earnings are coming up, I believe, at the end of the month. My personal rule for earnings is you got to be more than about 10 days out. In fact, for our scouting report meetings, Cody, we always say 14 days out. Talk about and actually show the team here how you created that space on your Thinkorswim chart so that you could peek ahead and find those earnings dates.
The space here that I'm always looking at. So it's up on the settings. Let's see. Because actually, the way I originally did was when I had a probability cone. But then, actually, no, it's not here. I believe it's actually down here. Yep, change right expansion settings. So I click this double arrow there, change right expansion settings. Click on it. You say how many bars do you want to the right. You can put any number in here. I have 62. It's just a random number. Just doesn't really matter. Anything you want, 50, 100. Gives it out enough time that you can see days in advance of what you need to be worried about. And yeah, Tim, as you said, we always look for the scouting report meetings about 2 weeks out. So.
Yeah, I have to do it that way. Well, because you want to have enough time to actually execute your trade. I think Coach Frank said it really well in the clubhouse the other day. I mean, listen, I would prefer just follow my rule. If I miss it, I miss it. There's always going to be another opportunity coming up. You have to focus on your rules, whether it's a 10-day rule or a 14-day rule. Don't try to force the action. Create a rule for how much time you need between now and earnings before you take those trades. Now, some of the companies on the downside that are grabbing my attention, ADS, Alliance Data Systems, down about 10% here today. Let's take a look at that chart. Gap and run, by the way, it did drop about 5-10 points on the open, but now we're down almost 20, 19.25 from top to bottom. Public searches at 4.4 billion. Epsilon deal deepens a data push. Advertising group Publicis shares boosted $4.4 billion deal. They actually came out and they are going to do some things with a different company. Looks like an acquisition from my regard. Break below support would be very, very key. Earnings coming up. What's your read code?
I'm not going to touch it.
No.
Just because of that gap and run like that, a lot of movement in there. It's even if I was going to play this to a trigger, it's moved too much for me. I think I've already missed the boat on this one. And with the earnings coming up, so many things about this just says stay away, not worth it.
Yeah. And I see Keith says, worked for him, let him drop. All right, Keith. Hey, listen, I'm with you, bro. I'm with you, brother. That's the nature of it. We definitely can do that. Yeah. Electronic arts is also grabbing my eye today, Cody. And I know this is one that you track and watch and actually trade quite often. Yeah. Give us a breakdown of what's happening here from a technical perspective and from the news perspective.
All right. So from technical perspective, you can kind of see this wedge type pattern forming, which is a neutral pattern. As a personality of the stock, so I do trade this quite often, it's got a tendency to move really quickly and then base, move really quickly and then base, move really quickly and then base. So this wedge of neutrality is probably looking for some type of catalyst. It's down today off of some news from their newest release of a Star Wars game. And when I first saw this, I was like, oh, what's going on with this? And what they did, which, I mean, could be considered ingenious, is when they released it on their Twitter, they said, our new Star Wars game is out, no microaggressions in it, or something along those lines. And Twitter went nuts on it. And they're just, talking negative press, negative news. But when you really think about it, they simply mention microaggression, no microaggressions in it. And then everyone's like talking about it. So now it's kind of a free press event on something that's not necessarily bad. So I'm curious on this one. I guess it's like when you go to the grocery store and you see things like orange juice labeled gluten-free.
Right.
because gluten's only located in grains. And last time I checked, there was never grain in orange juice. Or I was in the bacon section. They had bacon, gluten-free bacon. I was like, really? You don't say. But anyways, before I get off on a tangent, yeah, this is just a neutral pattern. We're looking forward to break one way or the other before we can really make a move. Right now, I am long EA. I did kind of get hit today. I'm not exiting until it breaks below this level. That's about where my stop is. So technically, got to wait for it to break this wedge before you go one way or the other.
You know, quite a few companies reporting earnings. We'll be talking about it later. Make sure that you do check your earnings calendar, though. Tonight, JB Hunt. Tomorrow, it looks like Comerica, Bank of America, Prologis, Johnson & Johnson, the Progressive Corporation, BlackRock, and United Health does report tomorrow. They're actually moving here this morning. Move on to the Dow Jones Industrial Average, if you would. Let's keep breaking through the markets one step at a time. The Dow, interesting action here today. As I look at some of the leadership in the Dow, UNH is actually going up, Disney's going up. But let's first start with the chart, Cody. Trend, pattern, and support and resistance. Where do you got them?
All right. Trend is obviously trending to the upside. It isn't a bullish trend. It's not quite as bullish as the S&P looked. Pattern looks like we're starting to do a high base on top of a high base, pushing right against the resistance level of 26,500. And if it were to break, its next resistance is obviously at 2,700, even with that all-time high probably slowing down first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've got slowing momentum obviously in here, and you've got to draw those levels. When you're reading a chart, breaking down the technicals one step at a time is something very, very important for me. Trend pattern levels is something I always do step by step by step by step. This is a continuation pattern, but you've got momentum issues here, which is going to come into play. Start with Disney, though, as we break down some of the components of the Dow, if you would. Disney, oh my. They have been moving. Obviously, they shot through the roof on that news of their streaming service. We talked about them. I thought Mark's analysis was fantastic on Friday. There's no question about it. The fact that they have all this content that they can start pushing out there that they've already created. They don't got to pay for new content to make this thing popular. They obviously will pay for new content as well, but a continuation run off of that deal. Now, Disney is running here. It can be a difficult pattern to want to chase something. I'm not sure there's an opportunity for a new short-term trade. You have to love it as a fundamental analyst. What's your reaction here, Cody?
My reaction is Disney has always been a long-term hold for the dividends. So if you had it for that reason and this gap up, you're very happy. This thing is gapping and running. I don't see any pattern that tells me that if you're not in it, that you can enter it right now. We need something to really give us a signal to trigger in. Other than that, we just got to wait and watch it.
Go ahead.
I'll keep going. I was going to say, yeah, if you're in it, you're happy. If you're not in it, you just got to watch. Don't feel like you're missing the boat and jump in it quickly.
The assumption is Disney's streaming service is going to hurt Netflix, which I just don't understand the logic of it, by the way. Both can actually compete and win, and they both can grow their viewership. People don't short Facebook because other people are using Twitter, okay? I mean, that's not necessarily, it's not like that market share has to only have one user. Give me a quick chart on Netflix. We're going to come back to the NASDAQ here in a minute. Disney is running, and Netflix is actually, kind of took a drop there the last few days. They've got earnings coming up this week. Be very well aware of what those earnings numbers are. I'm interested. I mean, I know Netflix is a debt-driven company that pays a lot for content. They have a high PE multiple, but Netflix is also the leader in this area. I'm sure I'm going to pay for Disney streaming. I've got girls. There's no question I'm paying for it. All right. But I also will keep my Netflix, Cody. Do you buy into the logic that Disney is going to hurt Netflix?
Yes and no. Yes, to the simple fact that they are going to be pulling their own content off, and by doing so, Netflix isn't going to have that available, so they will be hurt to that aspect. But no, because people aren't going to be canceling their Netflix subscriptions because of the missed out content. So yes and no on both ends. If anything, for the longest time, Netflix was always talked about as, what are they doing to increase their subscriber base? And then as soon as they pretty much saturated the market, that's when people started looking at, okay, what type of content is Netflix putting out? So since Netflix is now on the content production side of it, that's really where people are going to be focusing on, is what is Netflix putting out that's their own original content, not necessarily their subscriber base. So when Disney's coming in with their Disney Plus, they're going to be worried about growing their subscribers over time because they've already been a content producer. So yes, it'll take some share from Netflix, but do I think Netflix is going to lose subscribers over it or care all that much? No.
Well, and the other thing is the international game. I think Shami makes a really good point. When I've traveled internationally, I'm going to tell you right now, Netflix is huge all over the world, Southeastern Asia, Australia, in Europe, you name it. I mean, people use Netflix. I'm sure they use Disney in some ways, but I think Netflix can survive on their own without needing, the consumers who are going to use Disney to prop up their stock. It's interesting. The action is down. Disney's up. Netflix is down. That's the person who's taking it on the chin. They've got earnings coming out here in just a few days as well. We'll talk about that throughout the week. Go back to the Dow components. Bring up United Healthcare if you would. Now, a huge sell-off on Friday in healthcare stocks, guys. And UNH is a Dow component, one of the biggest in the space. Healthcare plan companies, they've been under pressure under so many different assumptions. But fact is, they're rotating.
Yeah, it takes me a second. Sorry.
Now,
it was just being fickle.
The other thing on this one is going to be earnings. These are not traditionally big gappers on earnings. In fact, if you look at the last few, you get a gap about 4 earnings reports ago, but then 3 and 2 and 1, those are pretty tight gaps. Usually these types of stocks don't gap all that much. But with volatility comes anticipation, and you could easily see some movement on earnings. I'm interested in this one for an earnings play. What's the exact time on the earnings there, Cody? Put your mouse on the red telephone if you would.
Let's see. It is 4:16 after or before market. So
tomorrow morning.
If you're going to do an earnings play on this one, you would have to set that up today.
Yeah. Give me a look at the trade tab if you would. Let's look at the MMM market maker projection.
Let's see. Market maker projection is $9.29 right up here.
$9 on a 236 stock. Oh my. 226 stock. You're talking about nearly 4%, 3.5%, 4%. You could do something bi-directional. And in the chat, guys, what I want you to type in is volatility trading. Vega is that one, of the family of trading styles that we don't talk about as much. We usually talk theta and delta quite a bit. But when you're in earnings season, volatility trading is huge. And there's so much good content on the Tackle Trading YouTube channel. There's one particular video that I did a couple of years ago, Cody, that I would strongly recommend everybody watch. It's called Vol Build and Vol Crush, and it talks about the volatility cycles and how to trade it. UNH might be in play there as we're working through earnings season. Obviously, there's quite a bit going on. Other performers on the Dow, Walmart is running towards a target. Take a quick peek at that one.
Oh, Walmart's this thing. So after its last earnings, we kept talking about it. That break 100, and it did for just a split second. Let's see, back on the 19th, and now finally it broke, and it's actually acting the way it should with a break and run. So definitely like the way Walmart's looking on this one.
Yeah, and there's quite a few companies, Cisco, Visa, all of them just kind of extending uptrends. Apple's got a little bit of a pause happening here. Give me a quick peek at Apple if you would. Hesitation, but on that moving average, that is riding right on the 9 EMA, I believe. I love that company.
That was feeling left out of this is something you should like. If this thing hangs out and does a little high base for a little while, this is, consolidating, giving you that opportunity for another movement. So I know that when Apple's running, if you're not in it, you feel hesitant to jump in it. But right now, this consolidation for all our traders out there, if we see some positive movement to the upside, watch that break, watch that trigger.
Yeah, yeah. And last company on the Dow, then we're going to move on from the Dow is Boeing. And I mean, it's almost obligatory these days. We got to talk Boeing pretty regularly. I saw that Southwest Airlines and a couple other airlines came out and said that they are not going to fly the 737 Maxes this summer until they get more data, more information, very responsible. I think a very
All the way out
appropriate.
till August 19th, I believe, was when they said they're not going to fly a Boeing 737 till then.
And I saw an interesting tweet from our president, which most of them are interesting, but he said, I'm not, I mean, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but I did kind of build a brand. I am the president. I think that they should rebrand the 737 Max and add some new features, call it something different. Did you see that, by the way?
I did. Yeah, they ended it with "What the hell do I know?"
What do I know?
The issue with that is it would look like the rebranding is being done to hide the initial problems to begin with. Now, if they could completely correct it, I can see the reason to rebrand it. So it's definitely a more difficult topic than simply, okay, yeah, we fixed it. Let me slap a different label on it and put it back in the sky.
Yes, it is, young man. It doesn't work that simply. No, Boeing is a company that's not going away. They're obviously going to make airplanes for a long time. They're a huge company. Eventually, the public will turn around and come back if they can correct it. But Boeing has to be the leadership on this. And no, they shouldn't rebrand it. What they should do is very definitively and with confirmation fix whatever the problem was and make sure everybody in the airline industry agrees that it is fixed. And if you suffer short term losses between now and then, we don't care. Okay.
Yep.
Because you're going to be in business for a long time. I understand what the president's saying, but I don't think it's that simple because then the rebranded one is going to be public knowledge. So they don't call it a 737 Max. They call it a 737 new Max. I don't know.
Well,
Max Plus.
Well, that's also the attitude of Trump is that he's always been very, very big on the big picture. He works off his hunches. He works off of this is what should happen. The actual detailed side of it, he never really gets down in the weeds and talks about the details of how something happens.
Yeah.
Like, he talks about the wall. The reason he just kept saying build the wall versus we need to build a comprehensive, well-rounded immigration reform bill. Blech. It's just too much. It's easier. He's always been just, big picture. So yes, Boeing needs to rebrand it in some way, form, or fashion. But I don't know. I tweeted the president this morning, told him to stay in his lane, but that was in regards to him him yelling at the Fed again. It's like, all right, Mr. President, come on.
Well, that QE stuff, we'll talk about it when we talk about the dollar. It still is insane to me. There's no question about it. Move on to the NASDAQ, if you would. I always break down the indexes step at a time. Dow, S&P, NASDAQ, Russell first, and then the dollar, then the commodity markets. And then on Mondays, we're going to go through the sectors. NASDAQ is fading up here at the high. Anything to add to this chart here from what we were looking at before?
It's the stronger of the sectors. With it fading to the upside, this thing is not just looking to get to its high, but this thing will probably be the first one to break and start forming new highs. A break above all-time highs is obviously a very strong bullish signal. NASDAQ is leading because of tech.
Yeah, there's no question. And, as I look across some of the performance on the NASDAQ today, Cron is grabbing my eye. Tilray is grabbing my eye. The pot stocks. Oh, they're all getting beat down. We'll look at the marijuana ETF as well. Cron coming down here. And I know this is one that you track and trade and hold, I believe, do cover calls on.
Yep.
But there's a reason why we call it dirty, sexy money. The volatility can be very difficult at times. When you go parabolic from $10 a share all the way to $25 a share in a month and a half, and then you backfill, I actually think it's now selling quite precipitously below the 50-day moving average. But this is the volatility of a company like this. What's your read?
My read is that it is going to break down, and I'm going to continue to have to roll my calls down. When it did this, I had to roll the calls up, and then I was able to actually get a couple months of calm, if you can call this calm. But yeah, now that it's breaking down to the downside, this does look bearish, so I'm going to continue to roll down. Other than that, this I would never recommend people get into the pod stocks as long-term holds unless you're planning to do some active covered calls on them.
Well, and first of all, I was just reminded of a line from one of my favorite songs of all time, Chris Christopherson, Sunday morning coming down. The going up was worth the coming down. I'm not so sure with Kron here. Kind of an interesting chart. Obviously, pot stocks are going to have a lot of volatility. Tilray is the number two seller on the NASDAQ today. TLRY, mid cap and above, over a million shares. I only look at big liquid companies when I'm looking at this stuff, guys. And Tilray, I mean, talk about how the mighty have fallen. Last year, it went parabolic, Cody. Everybody was talking about Tilray every single day as it went from like $25 a share to $300 when it blew off that top. Now you're back down at $48 a share. I'm sure you got people holding. Okay.
Oh, there are people holding. The people who are holding, and actually I'll zoom back out on this one. The people that are holding are the people who should have never gotten in the first place. They're the ones who started buying in, here. When they were buying in through this is when they, same thing as people buying Bitcoin above $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
Things don't move like this and continue to move up. And the people who are still holding here are the people who bought up there because they're just hoping and praying that it's going to go back up, but hope isn't a strategy. Now, the people who got out and helped force this thing back down were the traders and were the actual hedge funds.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this here to the downside, now that it's breaking $50, now at 48.83, there's nothing that looks like it's going to hold it up until about right there, which is about $35. So there's nothing holding this up till 35. It's going to go down another 15 or so points before it might even find support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, listen, I mean, I know that there was some chatter last night about the attorney general coming out and saying they don't support some of the state's acts, and maybe there's going to be some issues politically, and there's always going to be that cloud of confusion until you have a national policy, right? There are some things that could get in the way of these marijuana stocks, but number one is just volatility. You're seeing extreme movement. Give me the ETF MJ, if you would. I like this ETF for a couple of different.
See what they did there.
Yeah, they sure did. But look at that thing rolling over, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's a head and shoulders type reversal pattern, breaking below support into a new support zone. Guys, the madness of crowds. It's been around for millennial, and it's going to be around forever. Human behavior doesn't change. That's why we have to focus on these charts. Back on Tilray, I want to make a major point as a mentor here, guys. And I want everybody out there to really think about this. If you ever turn a swing trade into an investment, then you done messed up, all right? You did something wrong at some point in your trading plan. There's a reason why we use stop losses, Cody, and I see far too many traders not using them. Even to this day, I see traders that don't use a stop loss. If you bought it last year when it was running and you were planning on just being in for a few days or a few weeks as it was running, you should have been out when your stop loss got tricked. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Precipitous sell-off just in the last few weeks, Cody. What was that pivot breakdown at about? What was that price on the chart when it broke below earnings?
Let's see.
70 or so?
It was $70. So yeah, down to $50 now. We're talking
$20. We're down 30% in the last.
Yeah, I was going to say 30% of the stock.
Yeah. Another lesson that we're going to continue to talk about is Lyft. Bring up Lyft if you would. Oh, Lyft.
And in case y'all didn't get the message to our traders, if you're still in it, stop, get out.
If you're playing the tackle trading halftime report bingo, this is where we don't trade IPOs right there. You can cross
that was awesome, by the way. Actually, let me go pull that up. That was
the coolest things.
Hang on, let me get my Twitter up.
Ilka, I loved it. I loved it, buddy. By the way, it's in our clubhouse as well. And on Twitter, Ilka is part of our team tackle on Twitter. And what he did is he created a tackle trading halftime report bingo board with all the different phrases we use all the time. C'est la vie. There you go. Another box that you can check off there this morning. Pretty fun. Pretty good humor there, Ilka. I enjoyed it. Lyft is down. This is 7 days in a row. Since its IPO. Guys. Oh, yeah.
Here's. He said, in case y'all want some more fun during the halftime report, here's some bingo. Say that'll be 100%. pullback, retracement. There was some out there that I didn't realize was said so much until I actually read through this one. Don't chase the dragon. Let me bring my brother in.
Yeah.
Didn't even realize how often it was said until I looked at this and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Mark over here with my girlfriend.
Brilliant. Brilliant, Ilka. Bravo, my friend. Really enjoy that quite a bit. I'm going to have to get a copy of that and print it out. Actually, put it
We
up.
need to make a couple though. Otherwise, everyone's all going to get bingo at the same time. So we need to
No. You have to have there's like a bingo scrambling thing, I believe, that online that you can do. Because remarkably, I actually played bingo last Thursday, Cody, at my bowling league. At the very end of the year, we always play a little bingo game on the last week, and had fun doing that. And that's how she did it.
All righty.
Lyft is down big. In fact, what was the IPO opening price there, the high point of that first day?
The high point was $88. I believe their opening price was 87 even.
87 to 56 means we've lost 30 points since the IPO date, just 15 days ago or so, or whatever it was. It's incredible. It's incredible. What's your reaction to this chart here, Cody?
Let people keep holding, but we should not. We shouldn't be trading it off the bingo chart. Tackle traders don't trade IPOs. This is why.
It is
which includes Uber, which is about to IPO if it hasn't already. I don't believe it has yet. I believe they're about to. Mm-hmm. We're not going to trade that one either. Mm-hmm. We're going to wait.
On the upside of the NASDAQ, some things grabbing my attention on the bulls. Match.com is probably number one here. MTCH, if you'll give me a quick peek at that.
Ooh, look at that breakout above 60.
Triple top resistance breaking out. Ding, 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 ding. I got to tell you, that is a very, very beautiful chart. Match restructures their leadership group to accelerate international growth. Stock is up 6.5% today and running. Give me a read on that chart there, Cody.
That is a clear bullish trigger. And on strong volume, I like it. The only thing I don't like is earnings coming up. But with it being on May 7th, that's about, 3 weeks away. There's time to continue to play this to the upside. I do like this, and I would like it even more if I get a little pause or a up-day pullback. Mm-hmm. But this is easily triggerable. Today, I would just need to go to the intraday and see what things look like. So it's got this big move. If intraday this thing were able to pull back and give me a signal to get into it, then this is a nice breakout.
Yeah. Some of the application software companies are grabbing my attention. Fortinet is one of them. Let's give a peek at FTNT, if you would.
That thing's run a little bit long for my taste.
Yeah, not exactly one you're going to play, but it shows you the power of those high base breakouts. You had a high base breakout about 4 days ago when it broke above that resistance at 88 or so. And obviously we have now run into where we probably hit a first target or whatnot. Interesting. They actually settled some deal they had where they were under pressure from the Chinese made tech that they had. And there were some patent issues. It looks like they're settling some of that, is what I'm looking at in the news here. Don't know all the details of that, but it
wait. China and patent issues?
No kidding, right?
I don't believe you.
Yeah, no kidding. Lululemon is catching my eye.
I thought they came out and said that it's actually Lululemon.
I don't care. I'll say you can say Lululemon. I'll say Lululemon. You can say Schlumberger. I'll say Schlumberger. Whatever it is. I've been trading long enough. I can make the names up as I go. Lulu breaking out of a high base. Beautiful setup from the option report here, guys. LULU, and this is a complex pattern. A lot of beginners are afraid of gaps. I know that. I understand that because it adds confusion. As you have traded over the years, Cody, have you embraced the gap the longer you've traded?
Yes. And actually, depending on the different types, and we've gone over that before, actually, I'm going to go back and find that halftime report where we did a deep dive on gaps. I'll add that to the best teaching moments of halftime, because once you can understand the different types of gaps, then you really know which ones you stay away from, which ones can be played. And most of the time, even with this gap, so let's say we were just see this right here where it gapped out. Actually, I'll go back to the day it gapped. That's what we get. It's like, okay, it gapped out above a previous resistance level. It's currently above it, 165. So my initial thought, if I saw this gap, is like, okay, is it going to hold 165, or am I going to get a slight pullback of sorts? And what it ended up doing was, let me step forward. It ended up testing 165 and then moving to the upside. So that shows that 165 is going to act as support. And as we continue on, this thing, went down as if it wanted to test again on that day, starting to make this high base, this small wedge type pattern to the upside. This thing, you can tell from that gap, wants to continue to move to the upside. So the first thing I do anytime I see a gap is I pause. I look at what levels it's going to play with over the next couple of days. And then from there, that's how I build what strategy I'm going to work off of. But yeah, gaps used to scare me, but once you can understand the behavior of them, then they're very fun to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. You have to learn volatility and earnings and gapping, or else you're going to be limited in the amount of times you can trade. Earnings season can throw you off, and then the reaction on the patterns. Technical analysis 101, gapping's a part of it. There's no question about it. And by the way, just a reminder, if you've never taken that course, TA 101 over on Tackle Trading, with your pro membership, you can go through some of those courses. Not all of them. The premium systems are only premium, but there's some that are included with the pro membership. Another chart grabbing my eye here today, Costco, Cody. It's approaching resistance and the all-time high, COST. It's been a juggernaut.
Sorry, I got distracted by the comments over here.
Oh, now I got to check.
Don't tell me what to do, Cody.
Bad gap, good gap. Oh yeah, I like it, Batman.
I always think back to Mind the Gap.
Mind the Gap. You ever been to London?
The college website. So Google at your own risk.
Well, time out. First of all, Mind the Gap is a saying on the London Tube that is actually by the London Transit Authority, I believe. So they probably stole that from London. Have you ever been to London?
I have not been to London. It's on my list of places to be.
You have to go. You have to go. It is more than even what you think. It's amazing. It has more billionaires per capita than anywhere in the world. It's incredible. The food there is incredible, more than what you would think. Not, by the way, the British food is not my favorite. Actually, like the Iranian food that we had, the Japanese food that we had. Have to do fish and chips. You got to do all that stuff. Love London. Costco about to break out of the all-time high here today. Here, Cody. Beautiful chart. It's been a juggernaut, and you don't have earnings out until quite some time. That's actually going to be a watch list for me. You got lots of time here. What's your reaction?
I want to see it continue to move to the upside. The only thing that makes me a little bit more cautious on this one versus the last one is this one's still on small volume versus the large volume that we had on the previous chart. So that's the only thing that makes me cautious, but volume is more of a secondary indicator, whereas the primary indicator is the chart itself. So I see it, but I also might wait for another day on this one.
Yeah, I'm with you, brother. Move on to the RTY if we can. Let's keep working through the markets. Got a lot more to get to here today. And by the way, guys,
Bangers and mash, James. Bangers and mash is more of a German food than a London food.
Are you mad? Bangers and mash is Irish and German and English, and anywhere in Europe, you have sausages, potatoes, and gravy. So let's not start trying to draw lines as to where it is. I think Irish when I hear bangers and mash. I make a lot of bangers and mash in my house, actually. So not
all right. We'll
not arguing this today. We'll table it. Move on to the RTY. Obviously flat here. Resistance at 1600 until we break up or down one way or the other on the RTY. I mean, nothing really to see here. But Cody, if you break that 1600 level and the market has strength through earnings, I mean, where would even be a target on this thing? 1700 maybe.
I gotta zoom back out to even find that one. Yeah, it's probably 1650 first. Old support, new resistance. We say it time and time again, and that's what it was. It showed that it hit support at 1650 back here in June of last year. So I can see that acting as the next resistance level. This has been the dog of the four sectors, but whereas it did have a bearish trend going on, it broke above that, and it's starting to look more neutral. With a potential break to the upside would make it go to the bullish side. So it's playing catch up, or at least it wants to.
Yeah. Some companies catching my eye in the smaller range right now. Give me a look at Fitbit, if you would. Fitbit breaking below support.
Fitbit.
There was a time, FIT, where Fitbit
There was a
had
time.
all the rave, didn't it? Just never came around. I mean, Apple Watches, other competitors, they never really did turn it. Now they're not dead yet. I mean, the company's $5 a share and whatnot, but it's breaking below support. That's obviously showing me some weakness here today. Rite Aid, RAD. I
So
mean,
hey, real quick on Fitbit.
mhm.
I saw a meme and I thought it was funny. Do you remember those old toys? They were called Tamagotchis. It was like a little little animal in a thing that you're supposed to like feed and keep alive by like walking it every day.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
I
Well,
have,
I
I have,
saw. Anyways, the meme said a Fitbit is like a Tamagotchi, except for the little animal you're trying to keep alive is yourself.
so this must be generational. See, we had pet rocks. That actually was a thing when I was a kid, Cody. They would sell pet rocks and people actually bought them, and baseball cards. Never had a Tamagotchi, but I'm guessing my kids would probably know what it is.
Yeah,
Obviously,
it look like some of our traders in the chat know what I'm talking about. The Tamagotchi.
that's too
I had
funny.
a bunch of. I had a little koala bear. I remember him.
Yeah, that's too
Anyways.
funny. And
Anyways, moving on.
here's a public service announcement for the day. RAD, if you would. Companies don't
All
have to go back
right.
up. Failed business models can fail and fail and fail and fail. Rite Aid, there was a time, Cody. Go back to a weekly chart if you would. Caught my eye here today. Obviously, it's down another 10%. I've had this, mindset over the years, and I've had traders come to me and say, "Oh, yeah, it's got to go back up." No, when companies go bankrupt or when they have negative, PE ratios and they stop making money and investors fall out of favor, obviously that thing is falling down the chart, 45
And you know
cents a
what?
share.
There are people probably still holding this company who bought it back here.
Yeah, Nokia, NOK. Take a look at NOK.
Oh,
Play the
Nokia.
trend. When you're a trader, you're in and out, and you've got to have a trading plan. Investors have a different plan. Go back to a daily here. Nokia is struggling here today, breaking below support. Some of these smaller companies, I'm seeing mixed action. That's why the Russell can't break out. You're getting mixed action across the board in small cap companies. Until we get earnings clarity, I don't think you're going to see a lot of movement one way or the other. C'est la vie. There's another bingo card. Go ahead and mark it, guys. C'est la vie for bingo here today. Move on to the dollar, if you would. Dollar sign DXY,
Oh,
currency
the
market.
dollar. All right. So I actually was in a slight disagreement with the coaches on the scouting report, but I didn't get my picks in, so I didn't get to argue it too strongly.
Yeah. What's your take on the dollar?
I'm still bullish on the dollar. I'm actually seeing this as kind of a bull flag type pattern, but it is back in neutrality. So I believe we ranked it at a 40 or 45, which I think is a little bit too neutral. But obviously, with it being in that range, I couldn't argue it against it. Coach Keith had mentioned that he thinks the reason it was even down on Friday were for reasons that don't make sense. So
Yeah.
for a couple different reasons, and look at other currencies around the world, which is how you have to compare the US dollar, is always in relation to other currencies. We're the least ugly girl at the ball, or the worst, the best of the bad, or however you want to say it.
You can put pig or lipstick on a pig there, Cody. It doesn't necessarily make it more
Yes, but I
attractive.
mean, but that's what I'm getting at. Is like, the dollar may not
By the
be.
way, I just went full Emery County, kid from the sticks. I just channeled my uncles who were butchers from a small town of less than 2,000 people right there. They used to say stuff like that all the time. I don't know where that
No,
one,
it,
I
it
pulled that
was
one out of the
who was it?
archives.
Someone in the chatter the other day already said lipstick on a pig when we were talking about Boeing. I'm
Yeah.
not sure who to give credit to for that, but yeah, you weren't the first to mention lipstick on a pig today.
All right. All right. Here's my thing with the currency markets, and I'm looking across all markets. They're better day trading instruments these days, guys. You got to map out economic calendar. In fact, Cody, go to Forex Factory if you would. Just trade around the economics and go
Can
for
do.
small gains.
Share here.
Coach Keith had an amazing statement in our scouting report meeting on Friday. And he said, Tim, the foreign currency markets have 20% of the volatility they had from 10 years ago. Markets used to move more before all of this quantitative easing. Bottom line, we used to get more volatility. We're not getting it.
Did I
And
lose you there, Tim?
no, you're there. Calendar, if you
Oh,
can.
I thought I lost you. Actually, right as we were about to start the show today, guys, Tim's computer spazzed out, and obviously Matt's not here today. And I was like, great. Right as we're about to get started, I lose both the coaches.
Short Comcast, listen, always short Comcast. No, that's a running joke. My Wi-Fi skips, especially
Wait,
if it's
is
raining.
short Comcast on the bingo? Because it should be.
It should be, and short GE should be on the bingo. There's no question about it. Oh, there's no doubt. As you look up and down that list, Cody, there's news and there's economic events throughout the entire week. There's no question. And when you're trading foreign exchange, you can trade off of that volatility. There's a type of trade called a, news-based trade where you actually
Yep.
take a reaction to these candidates and then you wait for the move, then you go out and play it. Forex markets right now, in my opinion, are really tough for position trading or longer term trading because there's no trend. There's no trend in the dollar. The dollar is flat. Now you get up and down, you get up and down, and there's news, but I don't know. You trade Forex a lot. What's your take?
So I have two different positions as to the way I'm currently trading Forex. I have the carry trade where I have a position, an allocation of my portfolio that's just going to hold the dollar against the euro simply to collect that percentage difference every day. And then I have a smaller portion that I will actually day trade on if I'm seeing intraday signals. Now, to be specific on that, that doesn't mean I'm necessarily day trading every single day. I'm only going to take the trade on an intraday chart if I see a setup. So yes, if I were to go back to the chart, the dollar the past week hasn't been a good trading instrument, but 2 weeks ago it was fantastic because it was moving with a pattern to it. So I take it both ways. Is the fact that it is neutral, so I'm going to carry it, and then with the sharp movements that I can make, I'll play it intraday if I see a setup. But it's not as often as it used to be, like Keith was saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I look up and down that list. I don't see much that's grabbing my attention though.
I
GDP
see
numbers,
I see a couple. I see the
that
Swiss
one should.
GDP. So if I want to play that one, I see Australian monetary meeting minutes, which I don't expect much just out of it. I see OPEC meeting minutes, but that's going to affect the oil market more than currencies, and that's about all I see there.
Retail sales on Thursday could have an impact on
Yep.
the USD, but then we have Good Friday on Friday. By the way, markets are closed on Friday, but Forex markets are not because they trade internationally. Obviously, they're going to have a different schedule, but the US market, stock and equity markets are going to be closed on Friday.
Yep.
Yep. All right, kiddo. Let's go through commodities if we can. Back to your charts and let's flash fire through them.
Alrighty.
And then
So
the last thing we'll
oil.
do today, Cody, after we go
Speaking
through
of
the
OPEC.
commodities, is I want you to bring up the sectors in the newsletter and just kind of talk about the scoreboard. We don't have to go through every chart, but we can talk about the rankings. Crude oil is bullish. It's on a pullback. We're riding that EMA right now. A break above 65 would be key. Obviously, break down all of the analysis in the commodity report this weekend. Mark did about 10 minutes on crude oil, always does. The number one commodity in the world. You got to track it. Little retracement, Cody. I wouldn't play this as a retracement unless we got a deeper retracement, though. That's all
Yeah,
about.
deeper tracement. It would to me it would be like down here
Yep.
before I could even think about playing it. But yeah, other than that, it's going to be a breakout of 65.
Yep. Gold, if you would next. Let's take a peek there. By the way, other energies grabbing my eye today. Natural gas still bearish and dropping. It's down. We'll talk about it. If it breaks below that major support, it could even run from there. We have a bearish call on this thing, and for good reason. You're below all moving averages and fading lower and pressing into support. Give me a quick read.
Exactly what you said.
Good. Metals market. That's a good
I'll give you the
man.
bingo chart. 100%.
100%. All right, bingo it up. Metals market, give me a quick look at gold. Gold is down, holding support though, 1280 on gold, guys. If it breaks below 1280, that is a very key break of support. Right now we are holding, but fading lower. Quick read on that.
So I'm watching this level here that I just actually eliminated. I'll put it back. This 1290 mark is something I've been keeping my eye on because it bounced around it for a long time, and then it just seems to be wanting to play with it. Held last week on top of it, or excuse me, 2 weeks ago, and then now it's testing it again. Yeah, this thing. It's definitely not looking as bullish as it was earlier this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. And
It
actually,
went neutral, and now it's starting to look like it could possibly reverse and become bearish.
yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. And then last one is Bitcoin, BTC. Silver's kind of fading, same kind of chart.
Yeah,
That
silver looks like the uglier of the two gold, gold and silver.
Mhm.
So,
Bitcoin investors and traders, here's your test. If you can hold this high base, I mean, there might be something here. If you fail here, we could be back into a range. Who knows? The technicals will drive it. I'm really watching this chart more than I have in a long time. That move that I had a couple of weeks ago grabbed my attention. I'm going to be paying attention here. Now you've got a bit of a high base between 5,500, where it hit the tip top there about 4 candles ago, and about 4,700 right now, 5,100 on Bitcoin. It's going to be an interesting chart as we go. And then last but not least, what I want you to do, Cody, is go to the newsletter and talk a little bit about how we do the scoreboard. I've had some questions from students recently that don't really, maybe they don't follow football or they don't know all the rankings and whatnot. Explain what the yard markers mean on all the sectors, and then kind of talk about where our current rankings are.
all right, give me an opportunity to talk about myself. I will not throw the opportunity away. I'm kidding. All right. Well, as my computer takes a little while to load, I'm not sure why it decided to be slow all of a sudden, but I guess that's life. I'll say the English version of "C'est la vie." All right. So loading newsletter. Man, it really does want to go slow today, doesn't it?
Well, when you live in Hawaii, sometimes you lose Wi-Fi. I've been in ballrooms.
I was gonna say it's Hawaii time. Even the internet's on Hawaii time, where it just kind of slowly meanders through. All right, so let's get the newsletter pulled up. The most recent newsletter was this past weekend, the 13th, April 13th, which, wow, I am a terrible brother. That was my sister's birthday.
I need to your sister's birthday.
I need to send a
call her after this
call.
show.
Yeah.
Yes.
I need to make a phone call after the show.
Oh, young man.
Wow. All right,
hey,
I feel bad now. But
we make
all right, so newsletter for those. What's that?
We all make mistakes. Just give her a call after the show.
That's what I'm gonna have to do. All right, so running through the newsletter, those of you guys that follow me every week as I do it, I run through what happened last week as well as what's going to be happening coming week. The biggest thing in this coming week is, well, brace yourselves, earnings is here. And then, as you were saying, the actual sector breakdown, whenever I can get to it. Right here. So this is the gridiron. So what the gridiron is set up to be is it's a little bit more detailed version of the +3 to -3 scale that tackle trading originally had. So what we mean by this is, what is your overall sentiment to the market, to the portfolio, how you feel strongly bearish to bullish in a ratio. So what we've done here is, as I said, the more positive you are, the more bullish you are, the more negative you are, the more bearish you are. So it's a more detailed version of that. So if you look down here, you can see, your -3, your -2, your -1, neutral, +1, +2, +3. And the reason we want to get more detailed in this is, if we just said, we're +1 on, basic materials, communications, energy, industrials, and utilities, that makes it sound like we're the exact same ranking on all 5 of those, but we're not. Some of them were slightly more bullish than others. Or, your +2, technology or consumer discretionary are the 2 most bullish sectors this week. So if we said we're +2 on those, whereas we say we're also +2 on real estate and staples, it doesn't quite give the same feeling. So we did this to give just more detail to the chart as to how we feel as coaches for our bias. And +3 and -3, you'll typically never be that extreme to one side. You'll never want your portfolio to be a +3 bullish. So that's a touchdown. Very few times have we ever actually had a sector reach the touchdown. I think the only thing I can think of was, I think at one point oil hit the bears touchdown back when it broke down.
Yeah.
So it's really just, we go through here, we break it down. For those of you that don't watch football, just imagine the goal line. Any of our soccer fans, hockey, anything like that, you're pushing towards one side. You'll typically have a team that's dominating, hang out on their side of the field more often, regardless of what sport it's in. So that's kind of the way that this is set up, is if the Bulls are kind of winning the market, they're hanging out more often on their side of the field than the Bears. But as you can see, you'll have healthcare, you'll have different sectors that are having a little bit of divergence, which is a good thing. We don't necessarily like it when the entire market, including your safety plays and your more aggressive plays, all pushing the same direction. You want to be able to pick and choose from different sectors, and this is our way of breaking this down based on that.
Yeah. And there's many other things that you can use here. For example, a very simple thing is if you know the technology sector is one of the highest rankings, or the consumer discretionaries, we've built some buttons at the bottom that you can click on, and we'll show you all of the components of that sector.
So like right now, what tech is our strongest sector? If I were to click on tech, it's going to immediately, once it starts loading, but it's going to take a little while, it's going to pull us to FinBiz, where we've pre-set up the scan for everything in this sector. So if we say we're more bullish on tech, and then you want to do a deep dive, you can say, okay, what tech setups are there that I like as a trader? Yeah. And you kind of go through there and say, okay, maybe WU looks like it has a pullback. Maybe there's a trigger on there I can take. And just kind of go through here and scan it. Okay, SYMC, maybe I can play a break above that level, or maybe it triggered today.
Well, one thing I always like to do when I come into this page is actually filter for market cap, so I know which are the biggest companies first. So up on the top where you find valuation. So a simple trick here, guys, click on valuation, the tab, find market cap, and double tap it, Cody. It's the second one in.
Wait, where's my filter screen here?
Oh, it's hiding. So filters on the very far right, you'll find.
There it is. I was like, where is this? There it is. Open up. There it is. Market cap.
No, not that one. Not that one. We're not actually going to filter for it because we know all 62 of these companies are in the Excel. They're a spider. So underneath where you'll see like overview, valuation, financials, click on our valuation there. The second one in.
It's just taking a while.
Oh, no problem. And then find market cap. You can organize based on any of these components. So then I can click on market cap a couple of times, double tap it, and then we'll bring the big ones up first. And then I go to the charts. This is how I do bottom up analysis. Yeah.
These Intel, Costco.
Because a $900 billion company is more important for the sector than a $10 billion company. Nothing against the $10 billion company. But now I can look at the leadership in every area, Apple, Microsoft, Visa, Intel. You can kind of get a feel for the strength or weakness at the top and the bottom of the sector as well. There's a lot of different ways you can do that kind of stuff. There's so many tools out there. Guys, awesome. That is our halftime report here for today. Cody, there's a lot going on out there in the markets on a component by component basis, but really the storyline of the day is going to be earnings. For me, I've already wrapped up kind of my day. I know International Paper, by the way, good setup on the Tackle 25. Those of you that are Tackle 25, students, make sure you go check that list and update it. GE did break down today. So on the option or on the stock report, I believe, let me take a quick peek at GE on my own chart. And GE holding that 9, it did trigger though.
GE, the dog of tackle trading.
I've got to check my bias possibly at the door at some point here, because obviously I have some bias on GE. And then there are 5 triggers on the option report this morning when I was looking through it. There's a bunch going on out there. Make sure you get in there and watch the option report. Check those triggers out. All right. Cody, good job today, young man. Everybody else out there, halftime crew, thanks for being a part of us. Give us a like and a share last minute before you leave. Tap that thumbs up if you could. And we will see you guys tomorrow in our halftime report.